In the deep, desolate moors of Devon, there lies a winding, lonely road known as the Two Bridges Road. This stretch of highway, surrounded by eerie silence and the ever-present fog that clings to the hills, holds a terrifying reputation among the locals. Travellers and drivers alike know better than to journey down this stretch of road after dark, unless they want to risk encountering the dreaded hairy hands. The legend of the hairy hands dates back many years, though no one can pinpoint the exact time it first began. What is known, however, is that those who dare to drive along the road at night have often found themselves in a terrifying situation, one that has left them with nothing but a tale of horror and disbelief. It is said that the hairy hands first appeared during the early 20th century. In the 1920s, a man named Albert Smith, a local farmer, was returning home late one evening after visiting a neighbouring town. The fog was thick that night, the kind of fog that made everything seem damp and suffocating. The road was nearly empty. The only sound was the rumble of his horses as he steered his horse-drawn carriage along the lonely path. He had just passed the moorland when he noticed something strange ahead of him. In the mist, a pair of large, grotesque hands appeared. At first, Albert thought they might be the hands of a person, perhaps some unfortunate soul stranded by the side of the road. But as he drew closer, the truth became clear. The hands were enormous, thick with hair, and they seemed to be floating in mid-air. There was no body, no person attached to them, just these hands reaching towards him with a disturbing intent. Before Albert could react, the hands lunged forward, grabbing the reins of his horse with a strength far beyond human capability. Panicked, Albert tried to pull the reins away, but the hands held fast. They twisted the reins violently, and in that moment he realized the hands weren't trying to guide the horse. They were pulling the carriage towards the edge of the road, towards the steep drop-off into the valley below. His heart raced as he fought desperately to regain control, but the hands seemed to be everywhere, growing larger, more menacing. In the chaos of the struggle, Albert was thrown from his carriage and into the fog. The hands vanished as quickly as they had appeared, but the terror lingered. Albert managed to crawl away from the edge just in time, his breath shallow, his heart pounding. When he dared to look back, there was no signs of the hands, nor his carriage. Everything was silent again, but his hands trembled uncontrollably, as though the hands had left their mark on him, an eerie reminder that they were real. Albert's story spread quickly through the village, and soon more accounts began to surface. People spoke of feeling invisible hands wrap around their steering wheels or reins, pulling their vehicles off course. Others described the hands reaching from the mist, thick with hair, curling around their arms, tugging them towards danger. It didn't take long for the locals to come up with their own explanation. The hairy hands were said to be the ghost of two men who had once met their demise on the same stretch of road. According to the legend, the man had been driving their car one stormy night when they too were caught in the heavy fog. They were swept off the road and over the edge of the cliff, perishing into the dark abyss below. Some say they were simply lost souls seeking vengeance on those who dared to travel the road, while others claim the men were cursed, their spirits doomed to forever haunt that stretch of highway. The hands themselves, it was believed, were manifestations of their anger, reaching from the mist to drag any unwitting traveller towards the same fate. The hairy hands did not discriminate, whether on foot, horseback, or in a car. Anyone who ventured along the road was at risk of encountering them. It wasn't long before the authorities took notice of the growing number of accidents along the Two Bridges roads. Though they couldn't find no explanation for the strange occurrences, drivers would recount how they felt a force tugging at their steering wheels, how the car would swerve off course despite their best efforts. Some, like Albert, had been lucky enough to survive, but others were not so fortunate. In one tragic case, a couple was found dead after their car had veered off the road, their bodies crushed at the bottom of the cliff. The car was found overturned, but there was no sign of what had caused the accident, only the hair-raising story of their final moments, how the women had screamed about the hands just moments before they died. The village became a place of warning. Travellers would often stop to ask for directions, only to be given hushed advice about the hairy hands. Those who dared to ask for more details would be told that if you saw the hands, there was no escaping them. The best you could do was to drive carefully. Keep your wits about you and never, under any circumstance, stop on that road after dark. The hairy hands continued to appear sporadically over the years. Although no one could fully explain them, the legend remained a chilling part of Devon's folklore. Locals would often say that the hands had grown tired of their constant haunting, yet they were never quite done. Sometimes, on particular foggy nights, the hands would reappear just as they had on that first fateful evening. Some say the hands had become more powerful with time, seeking not just to pull travellers off the road, but to drag them into the mist itself. Those who had survived an encounter with the hairy hands claim that the creature or the spirit lingers in the air, waiting for the next fool to drive down the same cursed path. So, if you ever find yourself travelling through the lonely, mist-covered roads of Devon, particularly on the Two Bridges Road, remember the tale of the hairy hands. They say the hands are always watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Keep your eyes on the road, and above all, never stop when the fog is thick. For if you do, you may find that the hairy hands are not just a legend, they're a terrifying reality.